Right. So I think that segues us rather nicely into the next portion of the day. It's interesting how kind of going around the groups and hearing some of your reflections, how there was, I think, Ninka, you were sort of saying something about that balance between earning income and actually wanting to face, wanting to carry up a bit of meaning and perhaps some purpose in our lives. And that's really what Deborah's here to talk to us about today. So Deborah, and if any of you haven't been to a session yet with the Purpose Exchange, I can strongly recommend them. Really interactive and really interesting. And Deborah is just great fun to have in a session anyway. So Deborah, can I invite you please just to introduce yourselves to everyone, and your piece really is going to be talking a bit more about a little bit the age of no retirement and what older people can do to achieve at this stage in their lives. And I think probably nothing better than to hear it direct from you. So over to you, Deborah.
Well, thanks very much, Lucy. To introduce myself, I'm in my encore career. I had a finance career, and then I had children. I had 5 children in 5 years, which completely ripped me out of the workforce. And so then I spent, a good 20 years going, what do I do? What do I do? Like I've lost everything. And blow me down when my 3 eldest went off to university, I went back to school and retrained in aging and public policy, because I said to myself, what is the biggest market that is facing us in the 21st century? And I thought, it's us, because we are living longer and everything else. So that is really kind of how and why I became part of the Age of No Retirement, which is the social enterprise that I now work for. And so why the Age of No Retirement, I guess, is the question. Well, it started in 2014, but when it was getting underway, it was just a notion. But today that notion is becoming more a statement of fact. We really can't retire. Some people can't afford to retire, and therefore continuing in productive work is really something that looms for people coming just not far down the pike, or it's already their reality. And then the more fortunate ones among us can decide to jump out of the rat race. But then all of a sudden you're waking up to, what does living longer actually mean? And that's kind of scary. There's lots of us who are older, but not yet old. And you're looking at a third, maybe half of your life yet to live. And so, returning to Yvonne for a second, when she interviewed me for the book that she wrote, one of the things we zeroed in on was the fact that, as we reach 50, none of us are thinking about having another 40 years or something. I mean, it's just not even taken on board. And that still holds true. That still is very much the case, because you don't have the, coming up to 50, you don't have the perspective. When you're on the other side of 50, you're all of a sudden going, what a lot of us said in our breakup, holy cow, now what? So I think that it's really incumbent upon us to reposition aging as synonymous with living. So let's start with the word retire. Why? Why would anybody want to get tired again? I mean, think about it just, from a semantic standpoint, and I think we should just get rid of it entirely. Instead of saying, I'm not ready to retire, well, let's go, actually, I'm ready to earn. I just don't want to do the same thing that I did before, or I can't do the same thing I did before. Or I'm ready to learn. Maybe I want to paint. Maybe like Yvonne, you want to go and teach yoga or do Pilates or train to be a brain surgeon. It doesn't matter what the it is. So back to the Age of No Retirement, our earliest intention was to basically go, okay, we need to rethink work. We want to disrupt the retirement space. We want to work on changing the negative narrative. And we also want to blur that whole retirement line, because stepping over it is no longer what it once was. It used to be literally a cliff edge. You were working one day and then the next day you weren't. So we did some research and we asked 2,000 people aged 18 to 99 about their lives. And it was everything from big life tensions to the little microaggressions that get us down every day, to the quality of your relationships, whether or not you felt overwhelmed by the pace of technology. Did you feel you had enough time, not enough time? And what we found out was so interesting, that there was no statistical difference in experience between people, whether you were 25 or 65. So that commonality across all ages had so much, just gave us so much information because it was so in conflict with all the generational stereotypes, or at least what they would have us believe. So then we figured, okay, so behind all this commonality, what is there, what else is keeping us together? And so we did some more research and found out the most powerful motivational force held by people of all ages, regardless of age, was purpose. And more specifically, purpose when it was aligned with your ability to earn. So then we had two data points. We had, okay, we've got so much in common, and now we know that people need economic purpose. And so that became the bedrock for what we started as the Common Room. And we had two physical locations in London until COVID hit. And we had to close those for COVID. And that then had us pivot into what we are now at the Purpose Exchange, which is an online engagement platform, if you will. And we help people find their purpose at every age, at every stage, at all the transitions that life invariably throws at us, I should say. And if you think about it, your future begins every single day. So you're going to have a transition quite often throughout your life. So be ready for that, and your purpose changes along the way. But the most important thing about all that is you really have to understand what the it is for you. So what makes you tick? Where's your mojo? Where do you get it from? And then once you know that, what are you going to do with it? What do you intend to do with it? And then how do you activate those intentions? And the fundamental message and the purpose paradigm that we push is really the intertwined dependencies between your identity, your intention, and your action. It's really easy to say, yeah, I'm going to do that, but it's harder to activate it. So we're really talking about purpose as being a momentum thing. And Lucy asked me to consider two things. She asked me, what's something older people can and do achieve at this time in their lives? Well, first of all, I hate that term older people. Sorry, Lucy, because it's so vague. So let's narrow down things. I don't know everybody in the audience, but are we talking about 45 plus? Hands up. We talking 50 plus? 60 plus? But let's agree, all of us. Doesn't matter. We all have to make the growing numbers, and there are growing numbers of us, of older people, the most empowered, the most skilled, the healthiest, and able to contribute in society, and not unhealthy, disempowered, dependent, right? Everybody on the same page? We all agree? Good. Okay, so right now, everybody is sort of metaphorically removing or lifting their masks, because even when COVID continues everywhere, we are getting back to the rhythm of living again. And if you look around, there really is something great going on. And at various points during this great pause we've been in, it's been called a great awakening. It's been called the great resignation. But actually, really early in the pandemic, I heard somebody refer to it as the great humbling. And I really like that, because the pandemic humbled us. It changed everything, and particularly where work is concerned. And we may have all been operating in our own little comfortable work bubbles, but it's become increasingly clear that uncertainty is now the new price that we all are going to pay for life, for the rest of our lives. And when people find themselves moving into this new time of life, and we could call it the retirement space, but I won't, because I don't use that word anymore. We found that most people, when they're getting ready to move into this unclassified space, it was earlier than we thought. And actually around age 45, people start to hunker down. They don't raise their hands so willingly to step up to do something. And then as the years start ticking by, they start experiencing the transition in a more unsettling way, because many of us feel like we have ambition and we just don't know what to do with it. So the question then is, what track are you on? Are you on an earning track? Are you on a learning track? Are you on a giving track? Or are you going to do all three? So let's start with earning, because a lot of people have talked about that in the last in the breakout, about how women are making less, et cetera, et cetera. So earning is still a very valid concern. And now more than ever is a time to do the kind of work that pays, because we need the money, but also something that really matters to you. Because at the same time, we know that workplace ageism is a real thing. And the pandemic led to the most significant employment fall for older workers since the 80s. And it now takes people over 50 twice as long to find a job. And that's probably why, if you listen to Elizabeth Eisel in the second session, she was talking about older entrepreneurship. That's why right now, 20% of workers between 50 and 69 are self-employed. And partly to blame is the way that tech now drives our lives. It drives all of our lives. And so there's a disconnect between the skills that are needed and the skills many older people have. But that's not a deal killer. If you look at any job posting, let's use LinkedIn because a lot of us are on LinkedIn. Outside traditional industry roles, most of the jobs posted didn't even exist 5 years ago, let alone 3 before the pandemic began. But the digital transformation has accelerated everything since the pandemic began. And all the companies in all the industries who are looking to innovate and gain competitive advantage, there's a need for their employees to have the skills to help them to do that. But that also means that nobody has very much experience or experiential wisdom. So pretty much everyone is making it up at the same time. And nobody thinks about that. They all said that, when the pandemic hit, that older people weren't going to be able to, get turned on to technology or to switch on. We did, everybody did. So we stepped up to the bar. And so they can't say that to us anymore. So I tend to think that makes everyone's individual skills, talents, experience, wisdom is necessary. We need all ages, particularly now, because we need the exuberance of youth and the experience of age. And don't discount the rising popularity of remote jobs. I read that in February, all of the remote job applications represented 50% of all of the jobs that were posted. But there was only 20% that offered remote. So people want to be able to work from home, and that also changed everything. So that then brings me to learning. So let's talk about learning. If you still need to earn and you're hitting brick walls, well, maybe you're going to need to get some new skills. And so I've started to check out all of the things that are available online. And it is incredible. Right now, AI and machine learning are the buzzwords. That's all you read about. But there are practical applications for artificial intelligence and machine learning. I mean, you can do on a massive open online course, they call them mooc, you can do everything from how practical applications for machine learning or strategic business strategy using AI. So, there's all of a sudden the skills that you have accumulated as a worker have real feasibility within a machine learning or an AI environment. So don't be afraid of those, is my point. So you just have to be able to put yourself in the frame, if you can see yourself in that frame, or even if you just want to prove that they were wrong about us all along. We can, there's a lot we can do. And I also think you have to commit to being regularly scared out of your wits. Almost said something else. But you have to be able to be scared and willing to be scared. And with practice, you get you can adopt some fearlessness. And lastly, I want to talk about giving, because giving is always considered, part of the triad of the things you're supposed to do, what older people are able to do now. And in all the work that we have done, we really concluded that we should be giving some more heft earlier on, and a whole lot earlier, because it's not just about volunteering, and it's not just about writing a check for a donation to a charity. It's about aligning your social value in sync with your economic value. And people don't do that. And that's something that we really get into at the Purpose Exchange. So let's talk about what opportunities, this is what Elsa Lucy wanted me to talk about, what opportunities do older people present to organizations and society? Well, if we are really serious about disrupting this retirement narrative and challenging it, we need to get our skates on. And if we really think that the future is going to be worse for our kids and grandkids, because everybody goes, oh my God, it's not like it was when we were younger, we need to get on board. We need to step up to the plate and do everything we can to stop that. And let's start immediately. In just 12 years in the UK, the over 65s will exceed the under 18s. So our work is cut out for us. And this might ring true for some of us in the audience who had big jobs. Many of us assume that the more successful we are or were, the less susceptible we become to the sense of professional or social irrelevance that often accompanies this stage of life, this transition point. But the truth is, the greater your achievements were, or your attachment to your reputation, the more we probably notice our decline and the more painful it might be. So let's just agree, it didn't matter if you were a rock star or just a little cog in a very big wheel. We all want to make our older years more purposeful, a time of happiness, a time of success, because it's all still possible. And so I don't know about you, but I listen to lots of podcasts and I always get a little nugget of something out of all of them. And it's usually just enough for me to go up for a brisk walk, and get the gray matter agitated a little bit more. But there was one nugget that really hit me. And the basic essence was that throughout our lives, all of us get holes blown into our lives. Big holes. Some of those might be expected, some might be unexpected, and some are absolutely tragic. But they all come. They're inescapable, and unavoidable. And so what do you do when you got a hole? You have to fill it. So that's where the opportunity lies. And the answer is this: just keep brave, like Brave Starts. Keep being brave and full of life, and realize that you can't do it alone. And that's what I think a lot of people get hung up on. You think, oh my God, it's all about me. It's not. Like purpose, it's just beyond you. It's never about you. It's always just beyond you. And if you think also, nothing of beauty, of merit, of success was ever done solely by one person's steam, ever. So my invitation to you is think bigger, think broader, because anything you do, anything that you help shape that is going to be impactful is going to be something that is greater than if you did it alone. And that's where the goals for the purpose missions of the Purpose Exchange come in, because we all are, we're all hepped up about everything from the pandemic to Ukraine to disinformation, misinformation, poverty, prejudice. And unless we can get all sorts of people turned on to purpose and be change makers intergenerationally, we're not going to be able to get enough done, because we can't do it alone. So this is the whole collective. We have to do something together. And that's where empowerment, purpose, and really love comes into it too, because they coexist in tandem and they get their energy. Their energy source is us. So it's all about us.
Lovely.
Because there really is no more later. There is no more later. So I'm going to finish with this. There's a word that fell out of fashion in the 1800s, and I want to bring it back. And it's called vittativness. Now that's a mouthful, and it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but it means love of life, and it means vitality. And I think that encapsulates everything that you guys have been trying to do in the first 2 days of this seminar, and certainly today, because it encapsulates what all of us want. It's pure, it's simple, it's endlessly applicable, and it's very valuable. So I don't care whether you're earning, learning, giving, or just being. Turn up the dial.
Lovely.
Thanks.
Thank you, Deborah. That's really, I think, I think we can all relate. There's so much of what you were saying, or I could see a lot of nodding heads, and I could see people resonating with some of the things that you were saying. I think just a really uplifting message for all of us.